So to get to that shared vision, I think it takes a huge amount of hard work. But secondly, a huge amount of commitment to a shared vision that's going to come from a lot of different places. And I think that's probably the most important element. So I think joining people coming into that space have to have that preparedness that they'll have a voice, but others also will have that voice. And to genuinely be able to make impact collectively, you've got to listen to everybody.
There's been this understanding that we need to walk well together. We need to do this work well together. So we need to understand who we're working with. We need to understand and appreciate. I'm one of the people who say that differences, we don't need to just tolerate differences. We actually need to really value them, because that's where something happens that's more than I can do on my own.
So one of the other challenges that we faced was the competitive environment that exists particularly within the community services sector. And so we've got services who we're asking to come together and collaborate, who are also competing for funding. And so by nature of the way that funding models are traditionally sort of set up, it was creating an environment that impedes or can impede collaboration. We're trying to address that challenge is by really advocating for more flexible funding models that allows parties to come together and work together in a more collaborative style of way.
So we ran about a 9-month design and co-design and development phase. We had probably 30 or 40 group discussions. We had all sorts of spin-off side discussions. We injected those discussions with data. We injected it with available research about our task, which was child development, human development task. And what we did is a combination of single issue looks at the issues for kids. So we got all the education people together, for instance, or the health people together. And then big mashups where we got all of the above people in a room and mediated people's views and explored ideas and looked at seemingly contested ideas or conflicting ideas and found a way to bring those together. So that process took about 9 months, 30 or 40 workshops, big and small. The largest was about 300 people in one of the major venues in the city.
I think the big difference and the way in which the group is enabled to have those opinions and conversations is firstly the leadership. So I definitely feel Matthew Cox is the right person, at the helm of the ship, so to speak. He's very collaborative in his own kind of way of working. And so it breeds that, people kind of really resonate with that. I think the structure that's been put together also enables people to have opportunities to have their say. So it's not just about the action groups and the leadership tables coming together. There's, events like the Logan Get Together that just recently happened. And so people have a voice, in all these different sort of spaces. And I think that's the real difference, is that there's a genuineness about finding out what everybody really does want to say.
Yeah. And we really cycled through the set of issues over and over with different stakeholder groups and different perspectives until we started to feel we were getting a very clear consensus about how we should grow kids up well in our community, what were the things that needed doing, how those things played out over different ages and stages. And at the end of that process, we produced our draft roadmap. That then went back to all of those people for a couple of months of review, and then we produced our final go live version. So in doing that process took about a year. But that roadmap is still in use today, 3 or 4 years down the track. And it's still basically right. It still sets out the plan to grow kids up well in our community, and people still use it. And I think it was worth the year of conversation to get that right.
Yeah, so when the roadmap was getting developed, there was huge consultation, not just with people that were directly linked in with Logan Together already, but with community in general.
It's about building that excitement, and there's something happening here, you need to jump on and be part of it. And there was a lot to share, so we had funding from 3 levels of government. We had a lot of stakeholders who were very respected in Logan, who had jumped on board. We had a lot of good news to share, and I think purely, and we had a plan, we had the roadmap. So I think purely by saying, look, we've got this great data, we've got a lot of really good support, you need to be part of this. And we're not trying to replace anyone or anything. We are all in this for the same reasons.
So there were big events where community could come and physically be a part of that collaboration. There was online collaboration around it. And so as the roadmap got developed and is constantly being reflected on and updated and growing, I think what it does though is it creates a beautiful vision. So people know exactly what they're signing into. This is the roadmap. Yes, come in, but you need to align yourself somewhere in this roadmap as somebody who can be a contributor in one or more of these areas. So I think the roadmap, because it was done with such great consultation, it really hasn't shifted that much. It's growing, but it's not shifting. But it is on the right track, and I think that came from that consultation.
It's easier to work together now than it used to be because the systems are set up in a better way. And I know there's still a lot of work to do, but I think that we're heading in the right direction. So something that I've really noticed is how important it is to have those informal conversations that are around genuine relationships, because it's not unusual to attend a whole bunch of meetings and really only get one little point across or one perspective seen. But those genuine relationships and working alongside each other in meaningful ways, there's so much that comes across informally, which I think is much more important and much more effective.
So we were able to combat fatigue and demonstrate our commitment to this work with the generosity of our funding organisation. So we have funding from all levels of government as well as philanthropic organisations and community services. And the beauty is that some of those funding arrangements were long term, so up to 5 years. And particularly in terms of our philanthropic partners, the benefit that they've certainly provided is a greater degree of flexibility in the way that we use those funds, which has been incredible for the work that we're doing. To make that shared vision happen really requires a number of things to happen, and some of those key things really is having that executive level backing and commitment to work in this style of way. It's also about people actually showing up and making sure that they are committed to the cause. And it's also about being brave and saying we haven't done this sort of work in this way before. And that takes a degree of risk, and it takes a degree of putting yourself out there and just seeing how things unfold.
This is actually the community's driving this. And when you do that, when the community comes in such a force and says, this is what we want and we're here for you, that's what makes it work. When you have all of these individuals in a room coming from their respective organisations and empowering you to do a good job, it doesn't get much better than that.